Dr. Joyce Ester was appointed as Governor State University's 7th president on July 1st. As the midway point of her first full semester as president approached, Jaguar Student Media was able to sit down to interview her on October 15th. JSM reporter Chris Weber conducted the interview live from Radio Jaguar's recording booth on campus. Asking his own questions as well as questions submitted by students, Weber and listeners were able to get a glimpse of Esther's decorated past as well as her plans for Governor State's future.
So to be very specific, I've been a university president 3 months, but I have been a higher education president at community colleges for a total of about 14 years. And in all honesty, I'm not really sure what was that one specific thing that made me become a president. It was I moved up in my career, from a director to a dean or to an assistant dean. And at one point when I was an assistant vice president, I had someone say to me, I think you should apply to be a president. And so I was like, okay. And I was really excited about the opportunity to lead an institution and to be able to put a lot of my ideas into place.
Students weren't afraid to ask tough questions, but Esther wasn't afraid to answer them either. Over the course of half an hour, she answered questions regarding policy, campus expansion, political oversight, and more.
Well, first and foremost, I'm a big believer in say what you mean and mean what you say. And so DEI, that doesn't mean anything. Diversity means something. Equity means something. Inclusion means something. And I think it's important for us to constantly talk about the value of diversity, having diverse perspectives, having diverse ideologies, having diverse identities. That's important. So when we say we say diversity.
The two managed to cover a lot of ground during the duration of the interview, and the new president even got to talk a little about her personal life as well.
Here's a fun one. What kind of music do you like to listen to?
It depends on the day and the mood, right?
Of course.
Typically, every morning I listen to gospel music. I got to get my spiritual mind right. But I also am like an old soul, so I like jazz and blues. And sometimes I just like listen to instrumental music. So it just depends. But I would say my go-to is gospel music. And yeah.
Cool.
Replays of the full interview will continue to air every noon and 5 p.m. on Radio Jaguar during Homecoming Week, October 27th through October 31st, and again during President Esther's Inauguration Week at 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. November 10th through November 13th. Esther's investiture ceremony will take place on Friday, November 13th. For GovState News, this is Graham Taylor. On Halloween night, Friday, October 31st, acclaimed director John Waters visited Governor State University's campus for a screening and director's commentary of his 1994 film, Serial Mom. The screening began at 8 p.m. and was hosted at the campus's Performing Arts Center. The Baltimore native got his start making against-the-grain independent cult films in the mid-60s, such as his Trash trilogy. He eventually broke into the mainstream with films such as Hairspray and has been an active director, writer, and actor ever since. Waters took to the stage wearing a holiday-appropriate skull suit jacket and striking orange shoes, wishing the audience a happy Halloween before being greeted by a standing ovation. "You can't give me a standing ovation," he said with a laugh. "I haven't done anything yet." What followed was an unforgettable and unfiltered experience as the audience was treated to a behind-the-scenes look into the world of movie making. During the screening, Waters provided live commentary of the movie, offering a peek into the other side of the silver screen, while also adding personal anecdotes and other trivia about the making of the film and his time working in Hollywood. Following the film, Waters held a short Q&A session with the general audience before a special group therapy post-show meeting with GSU students. There, Waters fielded additional questions and allowed attendees the chance for a photo op. When asked by one audience member about creating media in the current political climate, Waters remarked that times in America are currently scary and turbulent, but he encouraged viewers to pursue their art, whatever it is, even in the face of government censorship. The night ended with another standing ovation for the colorful director, bookending an incredible Halloween night. For GovState News, this is Graham Taylor. For months, Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers have been terrorizing Illinois neighborhoods with the help of local law enforcement, endangering the lives of everyday citizens, ripping families apart, deploying chemical weapons in residential areas, and other violent actions without any restraint or accountability. Despite these well-armed, under-trained, masked goons invading their communities, Chicagoans have banded together in order to oppose this illegal crackdown, protesting at ICE staging facilities and forming rapid response groups to track and survey ICE activity in the area.
Look out for your neighbors, right? What I have done, even before I introduced a resolution, is I started to do early morning patrols in the areas where I knew that ICE was active. Just letting them know that they're in the area. We've said it before, so many people have said it before, I'll say it again, know your rights, know your rights, know your rights. And if you do know your rights, then share that information with others, because they might not know their rights. And at this point, I don't even think it matters what your status is, whether you're an immigrant or not. We should all know our rights.
The ICE holding facility located in Broadview, Illinois, has been one such site that has seen constant peaceful protests before and throughout the month of October. Activists, citizens, clergymen, and congressional candidates are just some of the people who have been turning out almost daily for over 2 months in order to protest in Broadview, putting their bodies and freedom on the line in order to stand up for their neighbors, staring down armed agents and surveillance helicopters.
I have seen huge overreach by ICE. They have a sniper nest set up with a long gun that has been pointed directly at protesters, including during a press conference that I was just at, to intimidate us and to get the press to back down.
ICE has responded to this solidarity over the course of the weeks by increasing their hostility towards protesters, who are legally allowed to gather publicly under the First Amendment. They have deployed pepper balls and other so-called less lethal munitions, fired at and hit multiple religious leaders, detained at least one journalist, and have assaulted at least one congressional candidate. ICE has escalated the violence even further by posting snipers on the roof of the building.
Right now we're standing outside the 1930 Beach Street, and on the roof of the building they now have a assault weapon on a tripod with a silencer, with a scope. They've escalated their violence every week, from pepper balls and gas to pepper balls, gas, and large projectiles, and now they're openly threatening us with an assault weapon. They could reach out to us 100 yards away easily.
As far as the ICE agents go, they have been escalating to copious amounts of violence in a way that is not only unprofessional, but is unproductive, and is sending a signal that these are the people that have our neighbors in custody, and we should be beyond concerned right now.
Even in the face of these extreme measures, average citizens keep returning to the site in order to stand up for what's right.
Yeah, I've been protesting for a while, just the inhumane cruelty that is occurring inside of these detention centers and the families that are being torn apart. And a couple of weeks ago, I was actually, before they put the fence up there, directly in front of the building and in a public space, peacefully protesting with my mobility cane, as I'm disabled. And from the roof, kind of as they are now, they hit the protesters with large pepper bullets that exploded upon impact. So they actually hit me in the head, took me down, and then continued to hit me in the body, and there's footage of that out there. My grandmother was a survivor of the Holocaust. This is her in the camp that she was in right there, and just another picture of her. So just showing that history repeats itself, and part of the reason that I'm here is that my grandma fought this fight already, and especially within my family. In my history, we do not believe that any human is illegal.
Legal action has been taken against ICE due to their various unwelcome activities around the Chicagoland area, but repercussions and accountability are slow to follow. Federal Judge Sarah Ellis issued a temporary restraining order on October 9th, attempting to rein in some of ICE's over-the-top force. The order prohibits arresting or threatening to arrest journalists for reporting on ICE and their activity, and also limits the use of tear gas and other less lethal munitions. However, ICE has continued to use gas around the city after the order was issued, including near schools, even interrupting a Halloween parade being attended by students in Old Irving Park in one specific instance. Judge Ellis had a hearing with Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino on October 28th in order to ask questions about Operation Midway Blitz and in order to put in place further restrictions on agents in the area. Ellis ordered him to wear a body cam while working, and to order his men to wear identifying information at all times. She also demanded the names, dates of arrest, and charges for all non-immigration related arrests from September onward, and demanded that all body cam footage captured in that time be submitted. She also ordered that Bovino meet with her every day until November 5th in order to report daily activity, though for the time being an appeals court has paused that request. However, in response to all of the pushback in the area, the federal government is also ramping up its legal action against those opposing ICE and the administration. On October 29th, the federal government indicted congressional candidate Kat Abou-Gazala in an attempt to threaten political opposition and suppress the growing progressive movement in the country, alleging that she assaulted an officer during a protest.
I've been out here every Friday morning for over a month now. This unlawful gate that ICE has erected is a danger to everyone here. It's a fire hazard. The fire department has ordered to come down, and it seems that the response is to create a free speech zone and let the gate stay up, despite ICE just blatantly, flagrantly ignoring the law.
5 more who protested at the facility were also charged with felony offenses. Even as the government keeps escalating their violence on multiple fronts, Illinoisans are continuing to fight for one another.
It's a tough situation, and it is a moment where we have to look back in history, and we all have to be a little bit students of history right now, and see what happened the last time that our friends and neighbors were taken. What happened during the Red Scare, what happened during Japanese internment, what happened during the Dred Scott era was that our neighbors were taken from us, and we couldn't stand it as Americans, and we stood up together and we said no. And every time that cruelty has reared its ugly head, there have been good people out here that are out here right now to stand up and push it back. And that's what we need right now. This is a very unique moment in American history. We need people at protests like this. We need people supporting our immigrant communities in any way that they can. And for anybody who's listening to this, there's still time to run for office. And there are a ton of offices, up and down ticket, that need people, just like people who are listening to this right now, who feel this message, who want to stand up and do something.
ICE and Border Patrol agents are clearly not welcome in the state given the actions of its populace, but that won't stop President Trump from trying to enact his will through any means necessary. For GovState News, this is Graham Taylor.
President Trump has authorized the deployment of National Guard troops to Chicago to help local authorities address rising violence and unrest. The troops are expected to assist police with patrols and public safety over a 30-day period. The decision has drawn mixed reactions from officials and residents. Illinois and the city of Chicago have filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration, arguing the move is unconstitutional. A federal judge has temporarily blocked the deployment for 2 weeks while the case is being reviewed. The White House says the deployment is aimed at restoring order, while city leaders insist federal intervention isn't the solution. This has been Noah Norris for GovState News.
Since October 1st, the United States government has been shut down. As of October 30th, the government has been shut down for over 29 days, one of the longest shutdowns in American history, rivaled by a 35-day government shutdown in President Trump's first term. The Republican majority Senate has failed to pass a budget that would allow the government to stay open, leading to the current shutdown. Republican senators refuse to meet Democratic senators in the middle and extend Obamacare subsidies, and until that happens, most Democratic senators are refusing to vote on the funding bill. Without the expansion to the Obamacare credits, insurance rates and current premiums for millions of Americans would skyrocket next year. As the shutdown approaches the end of the month, the effects of the shutdown are starting to reach the American people, and unless the Republican senators do something to pass the bill, those unfortunate effects will continue to grow. On October 24th, over 500,000 federal workers went without their first full paycheck of the shutdown. If the shutdown continues into November, over 2 million Illinois residents risk losing Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program benefits, commonly referred to as food stamps or SNAP benefits. The USDA has about $5 billion in reserve funding specifically for funding the SNAP program in events like this. However, the department released a memo at the end of October stating that they would not be using the contingency funding and that they would not be reimbursing any states who fund the program through other methods. People will go hungry because of the actions of the current administration. 25 states are currently or will be suing the president over this lack of funding. While his Republican colleagues fail to run the government, President Trump has been busy doing the same. During the shutdown, he continued to threaten military deployment in multiple cities, such as Portland and Chicago, and in some cases successfully did so. Trump has also been busy ordering the demolition of a third of the White House. Late in October, pictures of the construction for Trump's new White House ballroom were released, showing the demolition of the entire east wing of the historic American structure. When Trump first announced the ballroom addition, he lied, saying that it would minimally impact the current architecture. All of this is also being done without any sort of congressional approval. The current administration would rather enact the whims of a wannabe dictator rather than working to improve the lives of American people. The shutdown happened during a Republican-controlled government, and until they are able to reopen it, the average American will continue to suffer while the president lives like a king. 20 Governor State students who may need help securing food in the coming weeks. The GovState food pantry is available to all currently enrolled students and is open on campus Mondays, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., Wednesdays, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., and Thursdays, 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. For those who are able, it is urged that people volunteer or donate to their local food pantries and soup kitchens. The government may no longer care for the American people, but communities can still look out for each other. For GovState News, this is Graham Taylor.
President Donald Trump has signed a presidential memorandum directing federal agencies to crack down on what he calls organized political violence. The order targets a range of actions including doxing, threats, rioting, and property damage, and calls for federal authorities to track the funding sources behind these activities. Supporters argue the memorandum will strengthen domestic security and help prevent violent incidents. Critics, however, warn that it could be used to label activists, nonprofits, and political dissenters as terrorists, raising serious concerns about free speech and civil liberties. The move comes amid growing debates over the line between security measures and the protection of constitutional rights. This has been Noah Norris for GovState News.
On Saturday, October 18th, millions of Americans across the nation joined together in a staggering show of unity for another No Kings Day to protest the many illegal and immoral actions being taken by President Trump and his government. This is the second major No Kings protest that has been ongoing since Trump's second election, and the third major protest of Trump's presidency this year. It is estimated that between 5 million and 7 million people took to the streets all across American cities for this event. Either figure would make this one of the single largest protests in American history, and if the 7 million count gets verified, then this protest will have been the biggest single protest in America. The only other protests this century that rival the October No Kings turnout are the June No Kings protest and the even earlier Hands Off America protest, both of which were in response to Donald Trump and his administration's corruption. Protesters from coast to coast marched in major cities all over America, including Chicago, New York City, Washington, D.C., Dearborn, Juneau, New Orleans, and hundreds more. Chanting, singing, and dancing were common sights at the protest locations as crowds raised their voices against ICE raids, National Guard deployment, the government shutdown, and other controversial decisions being acted out by the current government. In response to the historic nationwide display of solidarity, President Trump dismissed the protesters and mostly ignored their concerns. He did, however, find the time to post to social media an AI-generated video of himself wearing a crown, flying a fighter jet as it dumped feces on the protesters below. Despite a president and government that are trying to divide the nation, average citizens turned out for one another in order to stand up for their fellow Americans and to fight for a brighter tomorrow. For GovState News, this is Graham Taylor.
Many Americans are falling behind their car payments as high interest rates and record vehicle prices stretch family budgets. Auto loan debt has climbed to about $1.66 trillion, with delinquencies, especially among subprime borrowers, reaching their highest levels in years. Experts say longer loan terms and higher monthly payments are leaving many drivers owing more than their cars are worth. Analysts warn the trend shows growing financial stress as households struggle to keep up with other bills like rent, credit cards, and student loans. This has been Noah Norris for GovState News. A deadly shooting at South Carolina State University has left one woman dead and a man injured during homecoming weekend. The university was placed on lockdown after the violence broke out on campus Saturday night. Authorities say the two incidents appear to be separate and are not believed to be connected. The South Carolina Law Enforcement Division is leading the investigation, and officials have not yet released the names of the victims or any suspects. The university canceled its homecoming concert and say that they are working fully with the investigators. This has been Noah Norris for GovState News. A new study finds that most firearm suicides among children involve guns owned by their parents. Researchers say easy access to unsecured firearms in the home greatly increases the risk of these deaths. Experts emphasize safe storage, including using gun locks and keeping ammunition separate, as a key way to prevent these tragedies. Mental health professionals also urge parents to watch for warning signs and to seek help if a child shows signs of depression or suicidal thoughts. The findings highlight the critical role parents play in keeping children safe, and experts say broader awareness and education on gun safety could save lives. This has been Noah Norris for GovState News. The U.S. federal deficit has dipped slightly thanks to stronger tax revenues and a modest slowdown in government spending. Economists say the improvement signals some short-term fiscal relief, but they caution the deficit remains historically high. Rising interest payments and mounting long-term debt continue to strain federal budget. Analysts warn that while this small decline offers a positive sign, meaningful reforms will be needed to ensure lasting financial stability, especially as future spending pressures are expected to grow. This has been Noah Norris for GovState News. President Donald Trump announced a new plan to make IVF drugs cheaper through a deal with fertility drug maker EMD Serono. The plan offers big discounts up to 84% on medicines like Gono-F, Overgil, and Cetrotide, which could save families around $2,200 per IVF cycle. The lower-cost drugs will be sold through a new government website called Trump RX, set to launch in early 2026. Some critics say the plan only helps with drug prices and doesn't lower the overall cost of IVF treatments or add new government funding. This has been Noah Norris for GovState News. U.S. safety officials are investigating nearly 2.9 million Tesla vehicles with full self-driving software after reports of crashes and traffic violations. Authorities are reviewing whether the system properly responds to traffic signals and whether its name misleads its drivers. The probe could lead to software updates or a recall, though Tesla says drivers must stay alert and ready to take control. This has been Noah Norris for GovState News.
On October 10th, President Trump's administration announced a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas. By October 28th, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was once again ordering strikes on Gaza, which were carried out, killing over 100 Palestinians, mostly women and children, and at least one journalist. However, that was not the first act of violence Israel conducted against Palestine during the ceasefire, and if patterns continue the way they have, it won't be the last. Even after multiple attacks, Hamas and Israel both claim that the ceasefire is still in effect as of October 29th. The main points of the ceasefire terms allow for the release of hostages on both sides following a 24-hour period that allowed for Israeli forces to withdraw. Israel released over 2,000 detained Palestinians and the remains of 200 more, while Hamas released the 20 remaining surviving hostages and the remains of 15 more. However, because of the strike at the end of October, Hamas has refused to turn over the last of the deceased hostages' remains. Despite the successful transfer of hostages from both parties, Israel has remained hostile towards Palestine. They have continued to delay and prevent necessary aid from getting to the city of Gaza, and carried out multiple violent attacks since the start of the ceasefire. One woman living in Gaza told The Intercept, quote, "There is no ceasefire. The occupation targets whoever it wants, stopping and resuming the genocide every few days as if playing with our lives." End quote. Morton Rostrup, a physician with Doctors Without Borders who treated multiple children following the strike, told The Intercept the following: "There is no doubt this is an attack on civilians." For GovState News, this is Graham Taylor.
This isn't like one of your campaigns. You don't get to write the ending. Not this time.
He's planning to end our world. And he's not gonna stop until we're drained of every last ounce of suffering.
Welcome to Hollywood Buzz, your source for the latest news in the entertainment industry. I'm your host, Graham Taylor, and today we'll be looking at upcoming releases, celebrity news, and the latest from Hollywood. Let's get started. Netflix has released the trailer for the final season of their nostalgic monster horror series, Stranger Things. The first half of the season will premiere on November 26th, with the second half premiering a month later on December 25th. Tron Ares, the third in the technologic sci-fi action series by Disney, had a disappointing premiere. This is the second high-profile film starring Jared Leto in 3 years to flop significantly following 2022's Morbius. Decorated actress and Hollywood staple Diane Keaton passed away on October 11th at the age of 79. Known for her roles in The Godfather, Love and Death, and Hair, among others, Keaton was an Oscar winner and BAFTA recipient for her work on stage and on screen. Funk and neo-soul pioneer D'Angelo also died this October on the 14th. The music icon and Grammy winner tragically passed away at 51 following a battle with pancreatic cancer. HBO's streaming service, HBO Max, will be increasing its prices once again this year. Prices are increasing between $1 to $2 per month depending on the subscription tier, with their basic plan costing $10.99 a month or $109.99 for the year, and their premium tier going for more than double that at $22.99 a month or $229.99 a year. The price increase goes into effect on October 21st. For GovState News, this has been Graham Taylor with the latest Hollywood buzz.
On Thursday, March 20th, 2025, in a decisive move, Disney shareholders overwhelmingly rejected a proposal to withdraw from the Human Rights Campaign's Corporate Equality Index, a prominent LGBTQ+ workplace equality rating. The proposal, introduced by the National Center for Public Policy Research, garnered support from only 1% of shareholders. Disney has consistently achieved a perfect score on the index since 2007, reflecting its commitment to inclusive workspace policies. Despite facing political backlash, notably in Florida over its stance on LGBTQ+ rights, Disney maintains that inclusivity fosters innovation and strengthens business. This has been Noah Norris for GovState News. On Thursday, March 27th, Montana Governor Greg Gianforte signed a law that restricts transgender individuals' access to public restrooms, locker rooms, and sleeping areas. The new law affects public spaces such as schools, jails, and state-funded shelters. Critics argue it could create discrimination and harm transgender and non-binary individuals. In response, the ACLU has filed a legal challenge to block the law. Governor Gianforte stated the law is designed to preserve safe spaces for women. However, opponents argue it will lead to increased hostility and complicate everyday life for transgender people. This has been Noah Norris for GovState News.